Hey, hello everyone. Welcome to today's video. Let's do a little bit of a weekly wrap up of the price action and see where we're standing going into the next week. Definitely a pretty powerful week and a pretty powerful close after the last 2 weeks where the market was stalling next to the old highs. We finally broke out at about 3.44% for the week on more than average volume. So this is very important. It's going to be very tough to argue with the price action here. You could have a failed breakout. I would doubt that would come on this type of a volume though. So it's important how we continue. And for me, one clue that this market it's going to go through some pain. It is if next week, but only if next week it does something like that, where we're coming back down and we're creating a failure up there, right? That would mean that there's probably a little bit of correction coming in before we probably resume higher. So I would watch what's going on next week, but what I like is the fact that you closed to new all-time highs and you closed on higher volume, and both these things are extremely important in terms of Elliott wave count. We are still looking towards a top eventually, I'm going to repeat this, in this wave one top, and it doesn't have to come, right away. It could last a little bit longer. Again, we're not going to, assume exactly where that ends up. We're just going to watch the price action on a daily basis to see how the market reacts, because the market had a tendency to come down in here. It held support at 59.50, but then this day right here, had a bullish engulfing, and it negated almost the prior 3 days of decline, and it came on pretty decent volume, and then the second day we get higher. So both these signs in here were very important in telling a trader that the market has got other thoughts. You forget the news, forget the war, forget anything, even if you're not listening, but just watching the price action. This is telling you, because this is where, we as traders, as market participants, get, influenced by all type of news, and we think we know how to interpret them, but in the end, the market is the one that does it. And right here, it's just continuing to push higher and closing to new all-time highs with an RSI that never dipped below 50. Look at today's volume too. So again, a pretty good move on the weekly time frame on the Nasdaq Composite. Again, 4.2%, close to new all-time highs. Very good volume as well in this move. So it's a very similar picture with the SP500. Dow Jones went almost 4%, which is a market that doesn't move that strongly. Usually, look at the volume that comes in here as well. I know we're approaching the end of the month in here, and it is. But one thing I want to draw your attention to is the fact that historically, and this is what's going to be interesting, because this is what's going to set up, I think, July and August. Usually July, more August, towards the middle, after the middle of July into August and September, markets are struggling historically. So, the moves look strong, and you see the breakouts and you see the volume coming in, but then you're thinking seasonally what happens during the summer, and that kind of pulls my enthusiasm back a little bit by telling me, be smart, don't get too aggressive on the long side, even though you might miss, let's say, some upside, but always keep an eye on positions and don't get too extended, too excited, take profits or cut losses quickly, or, just kind of keep the portfolio or the positions under control with an eye on the fact that July and August are difficult months. Even September, actually even more September, and then October, usually it's kind of the first half. We all remember the October drama usually, but then, November, December, January, they come as strong months. So as we're moving into the second half of the year, these things are going to be very interesting to see what the market does this year. So, I'm going to try to maybe put on Substack a bit more information about which stocks and kind of how the, for example, I think I've seen NVIDIA, usually in its history struggles in the month of July. But I mean, how can I look at this and ignore this action. I mean, you're look at the volume and look at the breakout and look at almost like an inverted head and shoulder in here, cup and handle that's turning and it's going to 157. So short of a failed move, which if Nvidia does it, a lot of the markets will do it since it's such a leader. We'll see, but usually I think July and August are not very good months for Nvidia, so I'm going to have to double check that. I'm going to put it up on Substack, but I think that's what that is. Really quickly, let's continue to go here to what's going on with IWM, which I'm long, and I'm very impressed with today's action, and this week's action for that matter. Today was pulled off a little bit, but then came back. So 3% on decent volume, high volume in here, above 40-week moving average, now closing. We haven't been above that one, since almost the beginning of the year. So that's an important sign. And this sector has been, I have a wave count where we do have a second wave in here through a C wave completion where, this can lead to a lot higher prices in IWM. So we'll take a look at that. And then Bitcoin, if we're holding this close, I think this is beautiful. Look at that formation. Look at that formation where you're selling off, you're coming in 3 waves, and then you're engulfing the previous red candle, right off that 20-day moving, right off that 10-week moving average. So this is very powerful, I think, and it could lead to much higher prices in a wave 1 and a wave 2 in here, and we could start squeezing higher. So very interesting. I know November usually is the strongest day for Bitcoin historically. I got to check the summer, but panning a good close, and I think we're closing on Sunday, so there's still a couple of days here of price action. We'll see if we're going to pull back or not, but definitely a very interesting formation at this point. Okay, now the next here is the US dollar, which breaks down, helps the risk assets. Gold, I think, like I said, gold, I said either yesterday or the day before, but gold is running into trouble. And sure enough, we're selling off in gold, and almost looks like I'm having some kind of a B wave in there. And this week's close is a little bit dangerous for gold. So we'll see where that goes. And then I see again just kind of pulling back, and we're back. But I want to show you, so this was just a kind of a quick wrap up, kind of what's going on with the weekly charts and kind of where I'm at with that. And I want to show you what I've done today. Yesterday I've talked about, let me go back to my platform here. Yesterday I've talked about a circle and circle. And the possibility, the higher likelihood actually of this coming lower, right? Using this, check yesterday's video, but I explained into it, like using this as a stop. This impulsive decline needs more, like lower prices. And we dropped today like almost 17 or 18% at some point. Let me get rid of this cursor. And we closed at about 182, but it dropped as low as, I think, very close to 175 or something. Anyway, I think there is a bit more to go. So, I would continue to look lower in this name for now. Then, so that was a good short there. Then, another one that I've done is QS, which, come on, it's, it's been such a hot move, but when you see the RSI diverging with this huge move going, and then I'm looking at the weekly charts, which are, which continue to decline, why would anyone be long this? Or you could be, but what if this happens again, right? And then you're just doing this, so until this high here gets taken out, I would have no business being along this name. I know it could be some kind of a short squeeze or whatever, but I try to take advantage of this divergence in here, and then of the fact that you had a rejection, and then as soon as I saw this rejection, a little bit of selling, I'm like, let me jump in it, and now I have a place where to put stops, and I can take advantage of some downside. So just kind of explaining some of my trades. I'm also short Tesla. I'm still short, and I'm shorting Tesla based on this formation in here. So, if we're considering this, and this is interesting, if we're considering this a 5-wave move, with the failed 5th wave in here, then this becomes an A, triangle in B, and up in C, and now you're having a 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, or a series of 1s and 2s. So, even if Tesla does this going into next week, I still think it's going to do that later. So, I wanted to take some profits as it was kind of breaking, because I shorted right at the break of this 20-day moving average. But, I said I'm going to let it, hang in there over the weekend, and then, see kind of how we behave at the beginning of the week, and we'll go from there. But I am tempted to short the stock. And then the other one I'm short is ASTS. I did not take profits in this one, and I'll probably do it on Monday if the market stays as it is. But again, I noticed multiple sell-offs in ASTS, and they all kind of got bought, but then something happened and changed, because it did a much different formation right here, where you had a bigger sell-off, and it took the low of the SPAR, and then it did a bear flag. So when I saw this candle developing on it, I'm like, let me jump on the short. Depending on the size of the position, right, this could be a pretty good move, but I think there's a bit more room to go in this guy. And, obviously if you're going to take the low of this candle, then, it's not going to happen in a straight line. There might be something like that and then lower. So we'll see. But, something I've done, and look at the RSI, how it held, on this entire rally, how it held there, and then all of a sudden, we lost it. So that's another signal for the short side for near term. And then Amazon, I'm long. I'm still long Amazon, and this it did a bit of a shake today, but basically all it did, guys, it just came back and retested that support. And that's what you got to keep your eye on, because once it breaks out of a level, it's going to come retest it, see what's going on, see if there's bids coming in. And not only there were bids, there were massive bids coming in, because it sent it up this much. So this market should continue to behave well after what we identified as a quick ABC and a long entry position. So again, IWM is here, so long on this guy, which also came back and retested. And this was based on some Trump news with the tariffs again or something like that. But the markets took a little bit of a dump and then recovered, closed back above that 200-day moving average, which is important. So that, and then KD, I'm continuing to be long, a little bit lower volatility, lower volume in this name, but I do continue to like it after this ABC. I know there's a risk of a 5th wave, but so far hasn't happened. And then the other one I shorted was Rubric, but this one I closed. So I closed my QS, I closed my RBRK, and this one also basically went back. So it went back to the 20-day moving average in here. It went back to the 20-day moving average, and then it failed, which is kind of what excited me, because if this was going to be some kind of an ABC, then you wanted that to continue, and it didn't, and it failed, and it led to a move. And I doubt that this is going to be a second wave, in terms of this being a wave 1 or anything, but this looks kind of corrective, so it almost smells like an X wave, which means that, you're going to come back, and then maybe do that, and then maybe break again, something like of that nature. I have a list in here that's called a bear box, where I have a bunch of stocks that I'm watching for shorts, and I'm keeping an eye and just kind of waiting for setups, and I'm trying to remember the one. Give me a second. Okay, I found it. It's Rocket Lab. So Rocket Lab is very interesting because if you look, and I think I put this on Twitter, but if you look at this guy, gosh, I mean, I know he was probably like, that $10 stock. It came down to $3. Now it's 35 or 37. But I mean, look at this. You have your 1, 2. Get rid of this cursor because it annoys me. Clear 1, 2, 1, 2. 3, 4, 5. 4 and 5. So, this is a 5th wave in my view. I don't have the RSI. Let me put the RSI on Rocket Lab, RKLB. and see how that looks. So, I mean, and this is a weekly time frame. You could say that, there were a series of divergences that got corrected into the 50 RSI, which is fine. But then as it's making new highs in what I think is a fifth wave, on very high volume, I don't know. I'm not saying I'm ready to short it, so I'm going to be waiting to see kind of what it does on a daily basis. And I'm going to keep an eye on it and see if I can catch a little bit of a sell-off in this crazy name that's been running so strongly. Basically, it's going to have to do some kind of a correction. I don't know if I'm going to be able to trade something that comes back all the way to 15 or to 20, but I doubt it very much that this guy, can just continue at the same rate. This is a monthly chart. And I think this is it's going to enter into a period of sell-off and corrective action. So again, it's on my short list, but I have not shorted it yet. So I'll take a look and maybe I'll talk about it next week. So thanks for watching. I'll talk to you next week. Bye bye.